This kid is different, dude. People forgot Tyson's the best player in the world.
If Tens is not in the league, viewership will go down probably by a lot. Is anyone in pro play right now even like a fourth? Like as popular as Tens? Like a fourth?
Behind them is Tens. He's got the frenzy, and he's got a kill. Man, all up in Moose's face, and he's getting a jumping one as well on the beef. I said this the first time I called Tens. This is his world, and we're just living in it.
Tens is undoubtedly the face of Valorant, whether you like it or not. You think of Valorant and you'll also likely think of Tens. For many current players and fans of Valorant, Tens was their first introduction to the game. He's brought so much publicity to the game in its earlier days, both as a content creator and as a pro player, and that holds true even for today. He's universally one of the most well-known and popular Valorant players out there. Even for people who haven't touched the game at all know about him in some way, shape, or form. His reach and influence in and of itself is not something to be debated, but naturally, even the most beloved of public figures can't escape negativity. He is considered the best player in the world by some, the most overrated by others, or even the worst by a very vocal crowd of many. He's been in quite a number of controversies both before and during his time in the Valorant community, so much so that we're only left to wonder why. Why is he always involved in a controversy? Why are there so many people always talking about him? Is he really as good as they say he is? These questions remain mostly unanswered, so today we'll do a deep dive to try and find these answers. Tens might be the most controversial player that Valorant has, but I've concluded that things aren't always as simple as black or white. You see, it all began in Counter-Strike.
We're done.
Tens may be primarily known for his time in Valorant, but he actually started off playing Counter-Strike. His uncle introduced him to the game where it was quickly made clear that he is a prodigy. His reaction time and skills were leagues ahead of everyone else around him, and he simply made a name for himself in NA servers. He was young and brimming with talent that simply needed the right space to be able to fully develop, and it was just a matter of time before a professional esports team picked him up. This came in the form of C9, who signed him at 17. He was put on the roster and was set to prove himself in a proper LAN tournament. Unfortunately, there were complications along the way. He was most comfortable playing Opper, but C9's CS roster had already dedicated an Opper and Mixwell. He was forced to play Anchor instead, which severely limited him and didn't allow him to play as usual. On top of that, there was a lot of pressure on him along with the lack of experience. This meant that he often choked during crucial moments, garnering even more hate. He eventually stepped down from the pro scene as a whole. A lot of people in the community at the time said good riddance, while some lamented his wasted potential. Many more, however, wondered if he would ever come back to the pro scene someday in the future. And well, spoiler alert, they get an answer. It just maybe isn't the one they'd expect. Tens' CS pro career may have been short-lived, but thankfully he could still cultivate his skills by other means. He resigned himself to content creation, where he could still play regular ranked games while streaming. He eventually garnered a dedicated audience, especially at the height of quarantine. He was known for chill streams, his sometimes awkward yet lovable personality, and of course, his raw talent. Then in 2020, Valorant was released. It was a shiny new FPS game that had the interesting gimmick of abilities, and it was, simply put, enticing. It was only a few months old at the time, and people were already drawn to it for the unique experience it offered in comparison to big FPS games at the time. Not unlike Tens, it was young and it was brimming with potential. It only made sense for him to try it out, so he downloaded the game, booted it up, and queued for one game. Little did he know just how much that would change the trajectory of his life. It instantly clicked for him. He was hooked right away, and he poured hours into just practicing the mechanics and climbing the ranks once again. He played with every agent there was at the time before settling with the main Jet. Her kit fit his preferred playstyle perfectly, and it was like a match made in heaven. He would be the first ever player to hit the rank Radiant, which was actually called Valorant at the time.
422. Oh, boys! Let's go! We got Valorant finally. Wait, so am I NA's first?
His viewership was at an all-time high as players of all ranks came flocking to his streams to watch him casually destroy his enemies. He became known as a human highlight reel and was treated as a benchmark when it came to pure mechanics. This all just begged the question, would he ever attempt to get into the esports scene of Valorant? To everyone's shock, Cloud9 introduced him as the first Valorant player on their roster in April of 2020. Many were stunned to see him with his old organization, much less some of his old teammates after he performed so badly before. The surprises didn't stop there though, because Tens clearly had something to prove, and he was about to amaze the world with what he could do.
Here comes an aggressive paranoia, and Tens is going to work on top of it. 3K to kick that round off.
He did well individually. He overall got a KD ratio of 1.33 and an ACS of 271.6 during his time on Cloud9's official Valorant roster. As a team, however, they never really found that much success. They constantly found themselves in places 5th or lower when it came to Tier 1 tournaments, not being able to keep up with the pressure and with other teams' more cohesive performances. Eventually, Ten stepped down from the pro scene for a second time to focus full-time on content creation. He went back to his regular chill streams and even kept playing Valorant. Meanwhile, the foundations of Pro Valorant's best teams at the time were just starting to solidify. Their names were steadily becoming more and more known as they dominated the leaderboards, and one of those teams would be the Sentinels. Sentinels at the time was widely regarded as one of the best teams in Valorant's competitive scene, and for good reason. With Shazam as IGL, they dominated NA with superior micro and overwhelming aggression.
Well, and the wall bank comes through from Kohler, so the headshot as Sick falls down. 2 more to go. Shazam is with Sinatra, but just under a 4K coming through. Now it's a 1 versus 1. Sinatra here, can he get the ace clutch? Recon Owl to come out. Now he's spotted him. He's straight through the box. He gets the frag onto Asuna.
Unfortunately, they had just dropped their star player Sinatra after some suspicious allegations were leveled against him. Masters 1 was coming up, and they didn't have much time to find a sub to fill in. Was there anyone out there that could not only perform on Sentinel's level, but also keep up with their blistering speed? And again, Tens would prove that he is full of surprises. Sentinels would soon announce that he would substitute Sinatra on a 1-month basis. But without much time to prepare as a team, how would they really be able to do?
Shortly behind that is Tens. He's got the frenzy, and he's got a kill. Man, all up in Moose's face, and he's getting a jumping one as well onto Thief. I said this the first time I called Tens. This is his world, and we're just living in it. He's got 4. He's going hunting for the ace. Let him off the leash. He's digging it.
They were unstoppable even against the best of the best. Tens seemed like he fit in perfectly and performed just as well as ever despite not even getting the time to practice. They dropped just 1 map and eventually won Masters 1, then set their sights on making it to Masters 2. Despite losing their first chance, Sentinels would eventually extend Tens' time on the team to make another attempt towards Masters 2. And, well, it turns out they would decimate challengers easily once they had enough time to properly prepare.
Run.
Run for your lives. Tens is coming, and looks like he's going to find it on the flank and go. He's spotted now as well. Oh no! I can't believe you've done this in the Cram final.
It doesn't stop there though. In fact, they're just getting started. They may have dominated NA, but they were about to be going up against teams from all around the world. Some of them had serious potential not just in micro, but also in macro, showing teamwork and strategies that could easily dismantle even the most insane aim demons. How would Sentinels do once they were on the global stage?
The Sentinels favor. And there goes the push into Tens. He's just going to hold the forward ground. He doesn't care. He's taking these fights by himself. Portrayed him down, and they're looking good to try to finish this one. Shazam has to go to the side, gets concussed, has to be great on his first push.
Oh my god!
How on earth has he done that?
This time, they wouldn't even drop a single map. They didn't give any of their opponents any room to breathe. They had an overwhelming presence and rode the tides of their momentum to victory. They won Masters 2 flawlessly, earning the title as the first international champions in the Valorant esports scene.
Sentinels are the Masters 2 Reykjavik champions, and they do it flawlessly. They didn't drop a single map.
Tens ended the tournament with stellar stats. He had the highest average combat score and kill-death ratio, making him the Grand Finals MVP. He was, quite literally, the best Valorant player in the world at the time. He successfully proved himself through all his ups and downs with that very tangible title and an impressive performance. After winning Masters 2 in 2021 though, Sentinels would find that they can never really replicate the success they had back then. Time and time again, they would find themselves just barely falling short of success. Their aggression would get punished easily, and their more passive plays just didn't work out as well. So what happened? Well, nothing but time, to be honest. They may have just used to be a benchmark, but when you're on top, you're being studied more than anything anyone else. Other teams saw their playstyle and either replicated it or countered it, and they just couldn't keep up with either. By 2022, Valorant had already introduced more agents, which brought with them different types of utility. At this point, gameplay became less simple and less micro-reliant. Valorant in the higher leagues of play had become more of a team-based game where utility not only affects gunfights, but even reduces the chance of pure gunfights happening in the first place. No longer does raw aim win you games. Sentinels couldn't adjust to the meta and playstyle changes, and as a result, they were on the fast track to a swift decline.
Sentinels were on top of NA last year. And now, I don't think you can say the same. New teams have arrived to replace them, and the Guard are certainly doing it here on Icebox.
Their head coach Psycho had built their team around Tens as the star player, but he didn't manage to figure out good ways to support him with both the new players and new agents. Unfortunately, there were a bunch of role issues here and there while they were trying to figure things out. Some notable examples being them juggling Pancata between Sentinel and Controller, and Sacy between Initiator and Controller to try and get the team into a shared comfort zone. To a community that doesn't fully understand the nuance behind their losses and can't see the pressure that abilities can give off, it just looked like they sucked, especially Tens. It was at this point where people started calling him overrated, outclassed, and underperforming. They only see the numbers and the wins and fully blame Tens for everything, despite the situation being way more complicated than that. He was hailed as a god before, but now that he isn't doing so well, he's washed. Parts of the community turned their backs on him, and they were very vocal about it, unfortunately. Along with the Sentinel's decline, Tens had some issues in his personal life as well. First of all, the wave of overwhelming hate comments was sure to take a toll on his mental health. As for his physical health, he was tested positive for COVID-19, a total of 3 times. It was also revealed in late April 2023 that he was recovering from cellulitis, a joint infection on his left index finger. It's a bacterial skin infection that causes redness, swelling, and pain in the infected area of the skin. And on top of all of this, Kaede, his fiancée, would make the announcement detailing her cancer diagnosis. She has acute myeloid leukemia, a type of cancer in which the bone marrow makes a large number of abnormal blood cells called leukemia cells, and they can spread throughout the body. With all of these physical and mental stressors, it's not a stretch to assume that they've affected his performance in his games. He was benched for a week in order to recover from his joint infection, and Marved was set to replace him.
Forwards, in and out. Bit of a spray transfer. Coverage is there. Spike needs to go down, and it does. How? How have they done that?
No one knew how long Tens would be gone for. Meanwhile, Marv was settling in comfortably with the team, even as just a substitute, and he showed a very promising performance as a lurking controller. Some people were starting to say that with all the changes, Sentinels were starting to look better as a team. Others would say that Tens was the problem, and that replacing him with Marv would be the better choice in the long run. Well, that certainly didn't last long, because out of nowhere, Sentinels posted a video announcing his comeback.
Hey, Sun City. Lots to talk about. I'm back.
Contrary to people's initial expectations, Marv would actually stay on the team while Def would be dropped. This caused quite an upset at the time, especially since Def was their IGL and dropping him in the middle of a tournament was insane. Marv would be set to IGL instead, and all eyes were on Sentinels to watch how they would adjust to all these sudden changes, and especially on Tens to see how he would do after his short break. Thankfully, Tens seems like he's doing a lot better than ever, and with just a few hiccups here and there. His first game back was against Crew, and he did decently well. His utility usage on Neon wasn't exactly perfect, and he may have not performed explosively with some crazy shots or clutches, but he did his job well as a duelist, and he created crucial space for his team to be able to follow up.
The dog, the flash from second, and Tens goes the other way. This is nice.
And he's the only one up. Tens is doing this on his own. Now they follow suit. But the site has been cracked wide open.
Then his second game was against Furia. It was intense, to say the least. A 1-1 scoreline became a 36-round overtime on Bind. And again, he did well not just as a duelist here, but also as an op crutch during crucial moments. They won 2-1 in the end.
2, and maybe a few more. Spring! That's it! It's finished! It's done! The Sentinels have granted their chance!
He fits in beautifully with the new Sentinels roster as a reliable upper that can turn things around when the situation calls for it. And Sentinels as a team itself looks like they're doing much better in terms of utility and teamwork. Given a couple months of serious preparation, they could grow to become a serious threat. TenZ has always been the center of controversy when it comes to his professional esports career, and we can only hope that this marks a new era of his rise to the top once again. Thank you guys for watching and subscribe for more videos. See ya!